Hey guys, welcome to Melanin United. On this video, we're going to talk about Tanzania and a continuation of the oil and gas pipeline between Tanzania and Uganda. And we did a couple of videos about that, how the EU is interfering in their affairs and trying to stop this pipeline so we don't get more jobs and become, financially, economically independent. They need us to be dependent on them. Um, And I talked about Uganda's response to the EU resolution, and Uganda condemns them, and the project between Uganda, the pipelines between Uganda and Tanzania. So Uganda, I already did the video on Uganda condemning them. Now at this time, Tanzania condemned them a couple of days ago. The Tanzanian, this guy named this Tanzanian named Abdul Samad Abdul Rahim, what's it called, who's the chairman association of Tanzania's oil and gas service providers. He's what he was saying was these lies that the EU resolutions try to put out and all that. Like, for example, they made so much lies, like they say human rights are being violating and all that, catastrophe to the climate. And they said this one city or one village in particular, what's it called, where like underwater was such flooded and all that because of the climate disaster. He called that out. He said that's such a lie. Like, there's Tanzania is really good for the climate and all that. There's a lot of green there, and they, you know what I mean. Magufuli knew what he was doing, so Tanzania is good. So he called them out on that lie that that one city or particular village is underwater or some shit like that. And then also, though they said a whole bunch of lies. The European Union, they also said they also said human rights are being violated, and 1,000, no, they said 100,000 citizens are being displaced by force and all that type of stuff, and they're being displaced by force, violating their human rights, and they didn't get no compensation and all that. The Ugandan officials already declined that, and what's it called, basically exposed that lie, because everyone that's living in that area where the project's gonna take place, they settled with them, and they took a while to settling, coming to an agreement with them and all that. They compensated them, and now the Tanzanian oil and gas provider Abdul Samad Abdul Rahim was saying that the European Union said 100,000 of the citizens in that project location are displaced and all that, and they're not getting compensated. But then the Tanzanian gas service provider said that's a lie, because actually only 5,000 people. So how did the European Union get from 100,000 people, but then the legit numbers, the real reality numbers are 5,000 people? So they just added an extra 95,000 people. Like, that's the kind of stuff they do to interfere, boost up their numbers, make up all these lies, and they trying to control the narrative in the media. So then our people, like in different African countries around the world, would be like, yeah, maybe Tanzania and Uganda should have not done this project. Too much people are getting displaced. There's already a city or village flooded, and it's don't. That's why you can't let them control your mind. So he said instead of their 100,000 that was displaced, their white lies, he said 5,000 was displaced. And then also, it was funny because he said, and the project's already starting, so they're trying to have a resolution, and they were trying to tell them to maybe hold off on the project for 1 year so we can come into an agreement. And remember, like I said, they want to do that. Tell them to hold off 1 year so then they can think of a crisis to put into Uganda. Like, I already see a couple of Ebola cases in Uganda. Like, that's them doing that, just so they can try to go in there and then destabilize the project and just make us focus on something else, an Ebola outbreak, COVID, or whatever. They want to stop us from doing that economic cooperation with Tanzania. Uganda and Tanzania, they want them to stop cooperating, because that's not dependent on them. That's our own financial project. So yeah, they're interfering as ever. And I was actually surprised the AU, the African Union, and also the East African Federation, East African Community of five of those countries: Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, South Sudan, um, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Kenya. They also put out statements like, "There's nothing wrong with this." Like literally all the checklists. They checked all the environmental health stuff, make sure that's perfect. The climate stuff, they make sure the citizens that are living in that location, they got, what's it called, compensated very well. Like the Tanzanian person said, the Tanzanian official just also said that everyone there that was living in that, specific location where the pipelines are happening and it's going to affect, those people got compensated well, and it actually took them a while to negotiate with them and come to something that each of them liked. And yeah, so that was a good thing. So now everything's set for the pipeline. They've already started it, like he said. And not only has the AU, the African Union, condemned the European Union, finally, when do they ever fight back against the European Union? Because lots of times I think most of their funding comes from the European Union, the African Union. Like, it's even European Union, African Union. I'm pretty sure, in my mind, they either created it or they're behind it. Or don't, like, maybe they didn't create it, like, but they're the ones funding it and trying to push their agenda, just like what they do in all these African countries, most of them. So, the African Union actually condemned the European Union, and the East African community also condemned European Union, saying everything is right for the pipeline. They did checklists, all that, and you guys are just trying to interfere, which is what I've been saying for the past 2 weeks to a month now. That's all they do. They try to interfere to stop our own economic independent projects because they need us to be dependent on them so they can keep making money, stealing, and then telling us, controlling us, trying to put needles in us, telling, they just want to run our countries. They want to run us as a people. So I'm glad that not only did Uganda condemn the EU resolution, but now Tanzania condemned them. But I was shocked the African Union condemned them, which is big, that's a lot of power there. And then the East African community, which is very good because they have Kenya, all of them, So they also called them out. So that's what African unity looks like. That's what Black unity looks like. That's what melanin unity looks like. They can't. What are they gonna do now? Try to make up some more excuses? No, we're all sticking together on this. So they're just gonna have to. They're just gonna have to suck it up and cry. Like, even if they're the one of the partners for the oil and gas pipeline, which is Total, a French corporation, oil and gas corporation. I mean, even if they pull out, Uganda, Tanzania are just gonna look for another partner, and that's what President of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, said. The contract's already signed, everything's checked, and they've already started on it. So what now? The European Union is just crying, no, don't do this, and they're just gonna make up some stuff about human rights violation. But the great thing about this is, usually they sit like these European unions and America. They usually single out an African country, and then they can say when like an African president is doing good in a project for their people and just stuff that's gonna make them less dependent on Europe, right? On these white folks. Then they usually say human rights violation are being committed and all that, and all the European nations gang up, and then America gang up, and they like to say the international community condemns this, and there's totally human rights violation, and it's only one country. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, they're all ganging up on me and all that, but a lot of these countries are not helping. That's what always annoyed me. But this is great news because it's not like they can just say this to Uganda, because Tanzania is also in the project too, so they have to say it to both of them. But then the African Union, which is all countries in Africa, have their back, and the East African community, which is 5-6 countries in that region, that have their back. So I know the Europeans are pissed about this, and this is why they always do divide and conquer, because when we unite like this, they can't stop us. They can't tell us to do nothing. So that's what I'm saying, my people. We need to keep uniting, working together, and that's how we're going to destroy and put down this demon of colonialism, colonization. These invaders, criminals, all the stuff they've done, they still want to control us. So no, we got to work together, unite, and that's how we get stuff done. Not just in like Tanzania and Uganda. That's a great example. East African community of those 5-6 countries, that's a great example. African Union, that's a great example. We need to do this on a global stage. So it's good that we're doing it in little pockets, country to country and all that. We need to keep expanding on that, then region to region, and then the continent, and then global, where our people are. That's why it's called Melanin United, because we need to connect globally. Everyone, all Black people in Africa, in Australia, in South America, in Asia, in the Pacific Islands, in Europe, in Canada, that's what we need to do. And that's how we defeat these people. Alright guys, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe.